Montana Territory, 1872. The spring sun cast long shadows across the valley as Nora Olsen stood on the porch of her father's trading post. At 20 years old, with flowing golden hair and a dress of pale blue calico that matched her eyes, she embodied both the delicate beauty and stubborn resilience required of women on the frontier. The trading post had become her life, her prison and her sanctuary, since her mother's passing 3 years prior. Nora believed firmly that love was a luxury the frontier couldn't afford. She had witnessed too many widows, too many broken hearts when men rode off chasing opportunity or fleeing trouble. The West takes more than it gives, she often reminded herself while watching young couples pass through. Dreams die faster than people out here. Her father's drinking after her mother's death had only cemented this conviction. What Nora wanted was stability, to keep the trading post running, to ensure they didn't lose everything to her father's grief. What she didn't realize was how desperately she needed connection beyond the transactional relationships with dusty travelers and monthly supply wagon drivers. That spring day changed everything. A commotion outside drew her attention as 3 riders approached, one slumped in his saddle. The youngest man, tall, broad-shouldered despite his lean frame, with sandy brown hair and piercing green eyes, supported a wounded companion. "Need help here," he called out, his voice carrying across the yard. Luke Fletcher was 25, trail-worn but handsome with a light stubble that couldn't hide his youth. Unlike many cowpunchers, intelligence shone in his eyes alongside determination as he dismounted in one fluid motion. "Bandits hit us 10 miles back," Luke explained as Nora helped him carry the wounded man inside. "Took our cattle. Shot Hank here when he tried to stop them." As she helped clean and dress the wound, their hands occasionally brushed, sending unexpected warmth through her fingers. This cowboy wasn't like the others. He spoke softly, showed genuine concern for his friend, and thanked her with a respect few travelers afforded her. "You run this place yourself?" Luke asked, noticing how she commanded the space, giving orders even to her father who moved about in a whiskey-scented haze. "Someone has to," she answered simply. Their exchange was interrupted when the 3rd rider burst in. "Fletcher, those rustlers are heading north with our entire herd. Boss will have our hides if we don't recover those steers." Luke's expression hardened. "I can't leave Hank." "I will tend to him," Nora heard herself say, surprising even herself. "If you need to go." Luke studied her face, seeming to measure something beyond her words. "I'll return with payment for your trouble. You have my word." "Words are cheap out here, Mr. Fletcher," she replied, but something in his steady gaze made her wonder if perhaps his weren't. 3 days later, Luke returned alone. Not only did he bring payment, but he brought news. He'd recovered most of the cattle and tracked the rustlers to a camp where territorial marshals had arrested them. "You did all that yourself?" Nora asked, incredulous. "I'm good at finding what's lost," he said simply. "How's Hank?" "Recovering. Fever broke yesterday." Their conversation flowed easier than Nora expected, stretching from afternoon into evening. Luke spoke of the cattle drive from Texas, of his dreams to save enough for land of his own, of a home that wouldn't move with the seasons. "Why not settle somewhere safer?" "Back east?" she asked. "Because out here," he gestured to the vast landscape beyond the porch, "a man is measured by what he builds, not what he was born into." Something in his words resonated with her own unspoken desires. For the first time in years, Nora felt understood. Luke stayed for 2 weeks, helping around the trading post while Hank recovered. He fixed the leaking roof, reinforced the corral, and even managed to coax a genuine laugh from Nora's father, something she hadn't heard since before her mother died. Each evening they would sit on the porch, watching the sun paint the mountains gold and crimson. Gradually, Nora found herself sharing things she had told no one. Her fears for the future, her mother's last days, her sketches of the surrounding landscape that she kept hidden under her bed. "You see beauty where others just see dirt and danger," Luke observed, holding one of her drawings. "That's rare out here." The day before Luke was set to leave with the now-recovered Hank, a telegram arrived. The cattle buyer had backed out of their deal. The entire drive had been for nothing. Luke would return to Texas empty-handed, his dreams of land postponed another year. That night, unable to sleep, Nora found Luke sitting alone by the dying embers of the fire. "I wanted to give you this," she said, handing him one of her sketches. The view from the porch at sunset, with distant mountains and endless sky. Nora, I can't take this, he protested softly. To remind you what you're working toward, she insisted. Everyone needs something to hold on to. Their eyes met in the firelight, and suddenly the distance between them seemed both vast and non-existent. When he leaned forward and kissed her, it felt like coming home to a place she'd never been. Morning came too quickly. As Luke prepared to leave, reality crashed down around them. He had obligations to his outfit, another year of contract work ahead. She had the trading post, her father, responsibilities that couldn't be abandoned. I'll come back, he promised, holding her hands in his. When I've saved enough. When I can offer you more than just words. Nora felt the familiar walls rising in her heart. How many women had heard similar promises from men who disappeared into the horizon? This isn't a fairy tale, she said, pulling away. The frontier doesn't allow for happy endings. Pain flashed across Luke's face. You don't believe I'll return. I believe you mean it now, she answered carefully. But the West has its own plans for men like you. Luke mounted his horse, his jaw set with determination. I'm not asking you to wait, he said, though his eyes said otherwise. As he turned to go, something broke inside Nora. The protective shell she'd built around her heart cracked just enough for truth to escape. I'll wait for you, she whispered, so softly she wasn't sure he heard until he turned back, eyes searching hers. 5 seasons, he said firmly. By next spring, I'll return with enough to start our life. If you still want that. 5 seasons, she agreed, the words both promise and prayer. Then he was gone, becoming smaller against the vast landscape until he disappeared entirely. Summer passed in a haze of work and waiting. Nora threw herself into improving the trading post, expanding their inventory, establishing regular supply lines. Her father, inspired by her determination, began drinking less and working more. Fall brought rumors of Indian uprisings further west and a harsh winter that isolated the trading post for weeks at a time. Nora wrote letters she couldn't send, filling pages with her changing heart, her growing conviction that perhaps love wasn't a luxury but a necessity for surviving the frontier's harshness. Spring arrived with new travelers bringing news of railroad expansion and growing settlements. No word from Luke. Summer turned to fall again. A wealthy merchant from Helena began making regular stops, his interest in Nora obvious to everyone. Her father encouraged the match. Security, he argued. That's what matters out here. But Nora remembered the feeling of possibility Luke had awakened in her. There are different kinds of security, she countered. The second winter was harder than the first. Influenza swept through the territory. Nora's father fell ill, and for weeks she feared she would lose him too. During his slow recovery, he confessed his regrets about how grief had consumed him after her mother's death. She wouldn't have wanted that for me, he admitted weakly. And she wouldn't want you putting your life on hold for anyone, not even me. I'm not, Nora lied, even as her eyes drifted to the calendar marking the passing seasons. The second spring brought a letter from Texas. Nora's hands trembled as she broke the seal, but it wasn't from Luke. It was from Hank, informing her that their outfit had been caught in the crossfire of a land dispute. Several men had been wounded. Luke's name wasn't among them, but neither was there any message from him. Summer passed, then fall. The third winter brought prosperity as the trading post became an important stopover for increasing traffic to the gold fields. Nora expanded their operations, hiring help, building additional storerooms. Throughout it all, she kept the sketch she'd made the night before Luke left, the companion to the one she'd given him. Sometimes she wondered if he'd discarded it, if he even remembered the golden-haired girl at a remote trading post who had whispered a promise. The third spring arrived with a federal marshal who brought news that shattered her carefully maintained composure. A gang of rustlers had been captured near the Texas border. Among their possessions, a distinctive belt buckle that had belonged to Luke Fletcher. Was he? Nora couldn't finish the question. Can't say for certain, miss, the marshal replied. These outlaws have been operating for years. Could have taken it any time. That night, Nora took out every sketch she'd made of Luke, his hands, his profile against the sunset, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, and considered burning them. Instead, she tucked them away in a cedar box, alongside the childish hope that had sustained her. The fourth year brought change to the territory. Montana was moving toward statehood. The railroad brought more settlers, more commerce. The trading post flourished under Nora's management, becoming something close to a proper town store. At 24, she had built something substantial, the security she had once craved. And yet, each night she found herself on the porch, watching the horizon as if it might yield what she truly wanted. In the fourth winter, disaster struck. A fire, started by an overturned lamp, spread quickly through the trading post. Nora and her father escaped, but the building was destroyed, along with most of their inventory and savings. "We'll rebuild," her father insisted, showing a strength that had emerged during their years of working together. Nora nodded, but privately wondered if this was the frontier's final verdict on dreams. Taking what you build, just when you believe it might last. They spent that winter in a neighbor's spare room, planning the reconstruction, taking inventory of what remained. The cedar box with her drawings had survived, though water-damaged. The sketch of the sunset view was largely intact, but blurred around the edges, like memory itself. The fourth spring brought rebuilding. A larger, sturdier trading post rose from the ashes. Neighbors helped raise the walls, evidence of the community that had grown around them. Nora found unexpected strength in this shared effort, a different kind of security than she had imagined. Summer came, bringing with it the 4th anniversary of Luke's departure. Nora no longer actively waited, but neither could she give her heart elsewhere. 2 suitors, a blacksmith and a young doctor, had expressed interest, but she remained coolly distant. "You can't wait forever," her father said gently one evening. "I'm not waiting," she replied. "I'm living. There's a difference." But they both knew it wasn't entirely true. Fall turned to winter once more. The 5th winter since Luke had ridden away. Nora threw herself into work, expanding their merchandise to include books, fabrics, small luxuries that the growing community craved. She started a small lending library in one corner of the store. The snow melted, revealing the muddy promise of the 5th spring. Nora was 25 now, respected as a businesswoman, known for her fair dealings and steady presence. Her golden hair was typically pinned severely at the nape of her neck, her dresses practical but well-made. The girl who had drawn landscapes and dreamed of connection seemed like someone from another life. It was an ordinary Tuesday when the stranger arrived. Tall, broad-shouldered, his face shadowed by his hat. Something in his walk made Nora's heart stutter, but she had learned not to trust such reactions. He approached the counter, removed his hat. Sandy hair now streaked with a touch of gray at the temples. Green eyes that had seen more of the world. A face leaner, more weathered, but unmistakable. Luke Fletcher stood before her, looking at once exactly the same and completely transformed. "Nora," he said simply, her name carrying 5 years of absence in its single syllable. The store was empty save for them. Nora gripped the counter's edge, steadying herself. "You're late," she managed finally, her voice barely above a whisper. A smile touched his lips, hesitant. The seasons weren't kind to my plans. 5 years crystallized in that moment. All the waiting, doubting, building, losing, and rebuilding. "I thought you were dead," she said flatly. "A marshal brought news of your belt buckle found with outlaws." Luke's expression darkened. "That's part of why I couldn't return when I promised." He reached into his coat and withdrew a folded paper. Her sketch, worn at the creases from frequent handling but carefully preserved. "I was ambushed, left for dead. A Comanche family found me, nursed me back. By the time I could travel, the war between settlers and tribes had escalated. I couldn't leave them after what they'd done for me." For 3 years. The question held all her doubt, all her hurt. For 2. Then I headed north, only to discover my name on wanted posters, accused of riding with the very gang that attacked me. Took another year to clear my name and track down the real culprits. "And this last year?" she asked, still keeping the counter between them. "Building," he answered simply. "I came as soon as I could prove my innocence and secure our future." Nora laughed bitterly. "Our future? You speak as if 5 years is nothing." "It's everything," Luke countered, moving closer. "Everything I've done has been to get back to you. I'm not the same man who left, but the promise is the same." From his pocket, he produced a deed. 40 acres, 10 miles west. Good water, timber. A small cabin built. His voice softened. "Room for more buildings. For whatever we want to create." "I'm not the same woman either," Nora said, finally stepping around the counter. "I don't need rescuing anymore. I built this place from ashes. I have a life here. I'm not offering rescue. Luke replied. I'm offering partnership. I never forgot your whisper, Nora. It kept me alive when nothing else did. Outside, the fifth spring was taking hold. New leaves unfurled on the cottonwoods. The mountains stood unchanged, eternal witnesses to human promises kept and broken. How do I know you won't disappear again? She asked, the question containing all her fears. In answer, Luke unfolded the sketch completely, revealing something she hadn't noticed before. He had continued the drawing on the reverse side, expanding her sunset view to include a homestead, gardens, children playing. A future imagined in careful detail during long nights of separation. Because everything I want is here, he said simply. Everything I've worked for, fought for, nearly died for. If you'll still have me. The moment stretched between them. 5 years of waiting collapsed into a single heartbeat of decision. Then Nora stepped forward and took his hand. Show me this land of yours, Luke Fletcher, she said, her voice steady despite the tears threatening. Show me what you've built while I was building too. 2 weeks later, they stood together on the porch of the small cabin that would soon become their home. Luke had indeed built carefully, the foundation solid, the roof sound, the windows facing the same mountain view she had sketched 5 years before. We'll need to expand, Nora mused, already envisioning additional rooms. The trading post taught me about storage and organization. Luke smiled, slipping an arm around her waist. Build whatever you want. This land is ours. That evening, as sunset painted the sky in the same golds and crimsons she had captured in her drawing, Luke knelt before her with a simple gold band. I've carried this across 5 states and territories, he said. Waited 5 seasons that turn into 5 years. I don't want to wait another day to call you my wife. Nora looked at the man before her, no longer the young cowboy with dreams bigger than his experience, but a man who had faced death, injustice, and hardship without surrendering to bitterness. A man who had kept his promise against impossible odds. And she recognized that her own journey had been similar, building strength from loss, finding purpose in responsibility, never quite surrendering hope even when reason demanded it. Yes, she said, extending her hand. No more waiting. They married the following Sunday, with her father giving her away and half the county attending the celebration. The cabin became a home, then a homestead, then a prosperous ranch as they worked the land together. When their first child was born the following spring, a daughter with her mother's golden hair and her father's green eyes, they named her Faith, a testament to the belief that had sustained them through 5 long seasons of separation and would carry them through all the seasons yet to come. On summer evenings, they would often sit together on their porch, watching the sunset paint the mountains in the exact colors Nora had captured in her sketch. Sometimes she would take out the drawing, now framed alongside Luke's expanded version. It's better than I imagined, she would say, looking not at the artwork but at the life they had built, the home filled with love, the land yielding to their shared vision, the family growing around them. And Luke, gray now touching his temples but his eyes still bright with the same determination that had brought him back to her, would squeeze her hand and reply, worth every season of waiting.